I learned about this guy here, Dan Wootton, from following Johnny and Amber. Now you probably know Dan wrote some bad things about Johnny and the Sun, false allegations as a matter of fact, and now Dan's got allegations out against him. But not only that, seems like Dan has been let go from his two biggest jobs, I think his only jobs, GB News and the Mail Online. This here's from the Daily Express from September 29th, 2023. It's about behind the scenes a little bit, or they mention behind the scenes. Inside GB News, scared presenters, anger, and what staff really think of Dan Wootton. And as you might have guessed, it's not good. Let's see what we got. Now, you probably heard Dan got suspended from GB from some comments that Lawrence Fox made that Dan giggled and laughed along with. Just to give some context, a GB News insider has claimed that the channel's presenters were left terrified of becoming the face of the apology for the on-air behavior of suspended presenters Dan Wootton and Lawrence Fox, and apparently now it seems Dan's not coming back to GB News. This is what Byline Times said. I don't think that information is 100%, but probably true. Speaking exclusively to Express UK, the staffer said that fellow employees think it's about time Dan Wootton's got his comeuppance, which sounds like they didn't really like him in the first place. In a separate video, I covered how Dan had a breakdown in the back room at GB News on around July 17th, and this here would add a little credence to that, being that people didn't like him, because when you're behind the scenes, getting irritated and all mad, you're not that likable. It might be understandable, but even so, it's tense and puts pressure on the staff around him. I think at the time he had 16 staff workers. The source added that there will be an uproar from a lot of female presenters if Fox was reinstated on the channel. Now, I've got a few opinions on this, because I think if a woman said the same thing about a man, what Fox said, there would be pretty much nothing. But the whole thing about Fox and what was actually said doesn't have too much to do with Dan and how he presents himself, what kind of person he is, or if he deserves this, which a lot of people think he does because, once again, what he wrote about Johnny. They added that Wootton is not popular with staff, although he is known to be protective of his producers who may be more open to his return. Exactly. Obviously, to the important people, Dan's probably all kissing up, and to the people below him or maybe around the same, he's just his old, shut up, get out of my way, this is what I think, this is what we think. Even those who usually back Wootton think he's messed up here, the source said, adding that everyone he'd spoken to was pleased he had been suspended. That's interesting. So a lot of the fans are pleased, or I should say, the fandom, who follows this news in general. The people he works with were pleased. Who wasn't pleased? Wait a minute. Where's you-know-who? Where's Mera? Doesn't she owe him one to defend him? I guess Little Miss Mera is not the best person to have as an ally. When something happens to her, she wants the help, she needs the help, she's the victim. But when it's someone else she could help, well, she's not going to stick her neck out. I guess I see how that goes. Talking about the general view within the company on Wootton's show, they added about 20% of the staff like the show, 80% think he's a toxic brand. So they worded that 20% like the show, but 80% think he's a toxic brand. They get into Fox's suspension, which we've heard over and over at this point. I've got mixed feelings, mostly disagree, but basically unconnected to Dan. Just a little bit. I mean, the theory goes this was the excuse they needed to suspend Dan. They get into some of Fox's comments. This article is a couple of days old, so that news was more fresh. He made the shag comment. He said he didn't believe in the gender pay gap, which I think is actually a pretty complex issue. I don't think it's so simple, but all right. They mentioned Dan did try to defend Evans, this woman, by saying she's very beautiful. Not sure Dan's the best judge of that, but I could say, she's not very ugly. I wouldn't say beautiful though. Let's just say, average looking. My point is, Little bit of a manufactured defense on Dan's part. I don't think from the heart. And they end with this. Describing the atmosphere in the Paddington newsroom, the source claimed that GB News chief executive and his senior colleagues were feeling the strain of the scandal yesterday, but that the following day, the mood had relaxed, with the channel's top brass confident that they had handled the crisis well. The insider said Angelos, who is the chief exec, and co. were really stressed yesterday, but they seem more chill today. The view is they think they got the response right. Well, so now we hear the staffers didn't like Dan. They don't say the chief exec didn't like him, but he did stress the guy out, and the guy is the chief exec. A lot of the general fan base doesn't like Dan. All right, then. It seems like Dan has taken some medicine. I'd love to see Dan take a truthful interview about all this. But probably it wouldn't matter so much. He would use the old linguistic acrobatics to explain why the other person's wrong and he's right, and blah, 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 blah. We've seen stuff like it before, and I wouldn't expect different. Anyway, let me know what you think down below. I had some shoutouts planned out, but unfortunately, I deleted some screenshots. They'll be coming in the future. I know Nitrous Gal, Laura B, and a few others have one coming. Apologies on that. We'll get to them. If you're not subscribed here, consider it. If you don't, I'll be sad, but I'll get over it. See you next time. Anyway, let me know what you think down below. I had some shoutouts planned. Unfortunately, I deleted some. Can I say I deleted some screenshots in one fucking try? Not 5 tries. I deleted some screenshots. There it is. Take 6, 7, who knows?